So, okay, so we're going to start in a few minutes. We're going to wait in a few seconds as soon as we get. Wow, you guys are pretty close today. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, we did. We had about 17 people, and it was good. Wasn't that cold. So we'll do it again this Sunday as long as I didn't look at the weather. But yeah, it's been good. We we did the short form twice, then we did the long form, and I did a couple of drills on the kicking exercises, and so everyone had a pretty good time. So.
I thought you were stopping at the end of September.
No, end of October. Yeah. One day it was so cold we had to move from the tree over to that side over there because it was under the shade, and it was pretty cold on the hands. So, anyways, we're gonna bow in. Ready? Up, 2, 3, salute, 1 and 2. Okay. Feet shoulder width, hands up. Turning, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and stop. Is that Lucien? 1, 2, 3. Oh. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, to your left, center, inhale, exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, 2, 3. To your left, 2, 3. Center, inhale, exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, 2, 3. To your left, 2, 3. Center, inhale, exhale. Okay, hands in your waist, circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center cross. Knees, circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, open and close, cross forearms. Switch. Okay, center, circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. palms down. Extend. Deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Sana, cloud hands. Okay, carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, infinity sign. Form the fist. Okay, palms together, strum the lute. And sana. Thumbs up. Alternate the shoulders. Okay, sana, switch. And sana. Okay, draw the bow. Okay, then to the back. Okay, raise the hand. palms down, deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, so let's go through the sequence. Right, ready? Starting from the beginning, preparation. She saved the day, Nan. So let's just still work with the opening movement a few times just to get the idea of how we should synchronize. So we have this movement, we have this movement, right? So that's left and that's right side. Then we have this movement. Okay, and then we go forward and back and we turn. And then we have this movement. And then we have this movement, shift, and then we come up to here, step out, and then we're here. So all of those little pieces have to come together, and you try to blend them together in the sense that there's a relationship to your right and left, to the upper to the lower. Then you have your torso that has to turn from right to left, or left to right. So that's sort of a constant. It happens throughout your transitions, it happens throughout your form. But the thing is, when we first learn the form, it's kind of separate, it's kind of isolated, so the body doesn't really recognize the timing and the phases within the movement. So we start off like this, and we sink the elbows and knees, and we shift. Now you see the hands are starting to move out. So all of that got us from this point to this point. While the feet are moving, while the body is moving, and we square the body and sit back and turn, you have sort of an interim transition that allows you to set up. So because we're here, and we start to move from here to here, so what creates this and this and this becomes moving right and left. Okay. So compatible movement with direction, right? So if I move this way, I move this way, I move this way, I move this way. So when we open the movement, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Then once we get to this side, this corner, then we're here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's where you start grasp the sparrow's tail. So let's try that again. Ready? So we're starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the reason why it seems difficult to get all that to go into your system is because it has to be programmed, right? Why is there conflict in motion? Because the timing is not up here yet. And because it's not up there, the only way to put it there is through repetition, consistency of motion. So on Saturday we talked about Tai Chi's a few of the concepts. The movement should be round, should be even, right? Yun, even. Yun is round, yun is even. Okay? Slow, done slowly, because slowness allows your brain and your body to start to pick up the understanding. And then accuracy. So accuracy comes from the geometry of your position, the reference points, the angular positions, 45 degrees, center line, right and left, forward and back. So right and left, how much? 45 degrees. Forward and back, straight. Forward and back is just directly forward and directly back. Then rise and fall has to do with up and down. So accuracy is not tilting, keeping the spine vertical, and then shifting of weight ties into the relationship between what happens above and below as, as an action. Because if something happens below, something has to happen above. But it can't really happen above unless you tie this piece into it, your torso. Because your arms and legs are connected through your torso. And because it's connected to your torso, your right and left and your forward and back comes from there. Now what else happens in the torso? The hollowing of your chest, the rounding of your back, the cupping of your shoulders, all of those are an additional component to your limbs. So these components actually, in their own sort of phase, has its own right, left, center, and so forth. Because when my body goes up, so do my arms, right? When I go down, so they're doing their thing, your legs are doing their thing, and your body's, so how does the body go up and down? It lifts and relaxes. So lifting is straightening the back. Sinking is rounding the back, right? And then forward and back is rounding, is hollowing. Back is the back side of your front, which is your spine, which can bow, round. So rounding your back and straightening your back complement each other. It's just like a board. It has a concave and a convex side. I learned that in woodworking back in the 5th grade. That's the first thing you learn. You look at a board, is it concave or convex, and then you have to find out which side you're going to use as the good side, and then you have to square it. You square one. But the preparation, okay. So preparation is this. Sink the elbow and knees, and then lift the back. So when you go like this, as gentle as that movement is, and if you put this mindset into that motion, if your body's relaxed, right, it's totally relaxed, not to the point that you're going to fall down or collapse, but relaxed enough for your body to become sensitive to movement. So when the hands go up, your body actually starts to sway. Why? Because your center is actually in the forward-backward direction, has to compensate for the motion. So you will have like a to and fro, a forward and back action in the sense that your body is floating. But at the same time, your feet are rooted. So you're stable on your feet and your body is gently going forward and back. Okay.
The movement of the legs and coordinating.
Okay. All right. So remember when we did this? Toe and heel, right? Remember we did this. So you have a give and a take. So the heel and toe relationship is that. So if I go like this and I go like this, then your body has to compensate for the right and left. So when I go like this and I sink, when I shift, this goes like this. When this goes to here, then the feet alternate as the transition goes across. Now when that happens, and we're down, as I shift and I start to do this, I'm already preparing on the two sides. You see my lower hand on the left side is already going toward rounding, and this is vertical. And then when I go like this, my hands start to become the upper hand by turning into this. right? This is the simple motion that we learn. It's from the loop. So when I'm here, right, after we're here, this goes like this, and then the hands start to create this. Now here we turn here, and then because we're at the oblique line here, we start to form the forward round, and we turn toward the center. But we're looking for the nose, the thumb, and the knee as a line. Then we turn like this. Now I begin to turn my body and kick the heel out. But at the same time, this is connected to the body in the sense that it's twisting. And then I lean forward and I separate the hands. But I don't actually separate the hands. I'm moving away from that hand. And then as I shift over and I start to turn this hand, this left hand, which is away from the body, has to become part of your center line, which is this. And that's the low hand of this, right? So I'm here. Now as I start to go back to this opposite side, and I start to, so you move right and left, forward, oblique and back, and then across to here, and then come forward. And then you start to go to the next posture. So the blending, yeah. Yeah, yeah. You are down. Yeah, because that's cycling. Yes, you know, when you do a drill, you cycle through. So you're resetting to here because that's where you started from. But you didn't go back there when you're in the form because we're here. So once you're in this lower position, you stay there. You don't come back up. Unless you need to go back up for, you know, depends where it shows up in the form. Like step up and raise the hand. Then you start to straighten your knees and you bend, or golden cockerel. So those are the vertical lines. But vertical doesn't always mean just extend and straighten the knees. Vertical could mean lift the spine from the top of the head. So that's straightening your spine because it was curved here. And when does it curve? It curves when the movements go forward and back. So that's what the integration of body. So if we're using the idea of movement to stimulate circulation, which is a reality, you can't circulate the fluids in your body unless you actually move. It's just the way it's designed. You know, the heart pumps out the blood and then it has to go back in your veins through this peristaltic action where the muscles contract, and then you have these one-way valves and it sends the blood back to up here and then it drops back in. So then, you know, that's just the natural course of what happens. But how do you do that? You have to move. It's going to happen anyways. Otherwise, you know, as soon as we stop, you would just, you know, you would just die. Everything would just stop because your heart wouldn't get any more of the return, you know, because it has to balance out. So while that's all happening, all the fluids are kind of seeping in and out of your vessels, and it's going into the spaces between, and then it gets drawn back in, and so it circulates your blood, it circulates your lymph system, and there's a balance between that because your lymphatic system also goes around checking to see if you have invasion of your body, the body snatches, and then it also takes away all the dead stuff and it filters out and it gets rid of it. So that system has to work, and it only works if you move. You know, you have to move, you have to breathe. So this whole, you know, there's all these systems work together. You know, without movement, you wouldn't bring oxygen to your cells. Without movement, without circulation, you wouldn't bring nutrients and the chemicals needed to create electrical charges in your body to create muscle contractions. And the whole thing is muscle contractions work off of this because every time the muscle needs a contraction, it needs a little bit of energy. And so it's, you know, it's just the same as because your car or your heating system, it needs energy. It uses whatever fuel it does. Our fuel happens to be food. And whatever your body does to break all those complex things into chemicals and then converting those electrical type resources, your body will use it. And it just continues as long as you're alive. That's what will happen. So, but we don't pay attention to that because we really don't know that's happening. It just happens. But I look at it like this because why does it work? Why does movement help? So when I say not just random movement, because we can move, but systematized movement ties your brain into the movement. That's why when we start off the form and we start to move, your body just knows what it should be doing because it's already programmed into the body. And the longer you do it, the more understanding it has. And it doesn't understand anything unless you bring it into the motion. So it goes from the ground all the way up to the top of your head, and it just cycles through. So even just something like this brings in the same idea. So this is nothing new. It's in the opening movement there. It's in cloud hands. It's in step up and raise the hand. So once your body picks up on what's programmed here, it starts to draw off of those same techniques that's already in your system. That's what subconscious movement is. It just is there because you're wired to do that. And because we're creatures of habit, because we do it over time, it just becomes innate. It becomes part of how you move, and then it's natural. Whereas when we exercise, it's really just a physical thing.
I noticed that in brush knee, I see a couple of people, as they're moving through center, they're kind of doing this little thing, before they come down. That's something I've been missing, is that?
That step out, it happens more you see it in the 24 movement, and it helps to widen the stance. But what it is if you're standing like this, okay, I'll use the mirror because I think it's easier to see. When you're in this position and you're facing this corner, like when we do cloud hands, we turn to this corner and back. When you turn to this corner, and that's what happens in the forms, you hold the ball, and in the 24 movement or some of the Yang styles, they have this step because we're passing through this, and then you're going to a stance a little bit wider than the normal position here, and then you go forward, and that's how that happens. But the foot that goes to here is not really, that's how you learn it. This is point A, this is point B, and then you go into the stance. But actually, if your legs are working correctly and you're here, then when you turn, it's really coming out, and then your hips actually make that maneuver, and then your leg ends up in the front. So you don't have to go to that extreme, because you can, if you're doing that, it's very small because our stance is narrower. In fact, if we do the competition form in the Wu Style, actually Wu Style doesn't actually have that twist even. That's something that's in many of our footwork, but the thing is, the Wu Style actually, in some of the traditional styles, they actually keep the foot straight completely. And they just move from this position through the center, and they would just walk straight. Now, in one sense, that's more natural. We don't actually walk like this. It would take us all day to get to where we have to go. So actually when we walk, and this is something I teach in the Parkinson's class, that we don't walk from a shoulder width stance. We walk from a position that's about 2 inches apart. So because, the reason for that is because we're standing like this, and we walk, the center line is closer to your center. So you're not going to get such a drastic shift of weight. If you walk from a shoulder width stance, then you end up like this because it's so drastic of a shift. So the natural way of walking would be in this position, and then you just take your step, and it's a heel, heel and toe, heel and toe. That's the mechanism to go. Then when you go backwards, it's toe and heel, toe and heel. So that relationship is a constant, and that relationship is something that people don't understand because they don't think of rolling and maneuvering in their feet. And a lot of, seniors don't understand this, and people walk with just planting their feet and dropping their weight. But if you roll through it like we do it in Tai Chi, then your agility, your footwork is going to be, so much better. And then at the same time, we're shifting weight. It's really 0 and 100, because you can't take your next step unless you support 100% of your weight. It's the relationships that we have in stances vary, and we can't really measure them, but you can measure 0 and 100. In between, you can't. So, that's what we have to understand, is that the reason why Tai Chi works is when we shift, we have all these little positions that when we step, we know how much to step forward. And you don't have to reach out that far to get into your stance, because walking should be natural, should be effortless. So your step really doesn't need to be so big. It just has to be enough to take you forward. Then when you shift your weight, it takes you forward again. And if you want to get to a certain distance, with a smaller step, you're going to use more steps, obviously, because it's, smaller increments. So someone tall is going to get there faster than you would because they have longer legs. It's just a natural course. But the thing is, when we're doing this, that's what we're trying to understand, is getting our body to recognize, and then the feedback that goes here, and it's really constantly learning. So, but integration of upper body and lower body is something that we need for functionality, not only for our circulation, but also to do things that we don't affect the joints.
So yeah, on legs, so
So,
when I step back, I'm really stepping compared to looking over at the like I'm really stepping too far out. There's just a small step.
for walking, it's a small step.
Or like
So that's the variant. Like, a wider stance gives you a longer look. Because you're tall, for you to get the same look as someone smaller, you have to step out wider because of the proportions in an image, in a position. So it's true that you would have to take a bigger step. But, it's hard to take a big step with this foot forward, straight. It's easier when your feet are like this, because now when you turn your foot from here to here, you actually widen the base of your foot laterally, so it gives you more stability. Like you don't see, so when you're walking a tightrope, you have to walk like this, and you have to stay on the rope. But if you're like this, on the ground, you would feel more stable. If your feet like this, you feel more stable this way. If I had my feet in the same position, I wouldn't feel as stable. So what happens when you're like this is that you widen the base so you have some stability. So if you're going to move forward and go to a bigger stance, you want to stabilize your position, and whether you come through here to reach out and go to that position. Now that's what they allow in the modern forms, to elongate the stance because if I did this, and I stepped out here, if I pivot on the heel, that elongates the stance, right? It makes it longer because of this position. Now, if I go like this, it appears to stay the same or shorter. So on the power side of it, you want to pivot off the heel. The strength is going and the momentum is going forward. So this is what the pivot should be in the Wu style. Typically, the sliding back is actually not acceptable if you're trying to use your legs for power. So in other words, if you're pushing a car and you're sliding back, you're going to not have force going forward. In order for you to have a forward position, you have to be attached to the ground and push off of this, and then using your heel to dig into the ground. Because when you go to the toe position, you lost your structure here. So that's what the integrity of a position is. So structure is our skeleton, and how we use our skeleton to optimize its position really has to do with how you form the motion. So you would, if you just had, a wooden triangle, that doesn't change. But because our body adapts, and then some people adapt correctly, some people adapt incorrectly, you're going to get a variant of what forces would be here. So that's what we have done here. So building intelligence in the body is that understanding. So, but because we're doing it for circulation is going to happen regardless of how deep you go into the stance, as long as you're moving your legs, as long as you're moving your limbs, as long as you're coordinated, you'll still get the circulation. But when you go deeper in the stance for the look or for competition or for training for strength, then you need to go deeper, because then you're working the load differently. You work your thighs a lot more, your hips a lot more, because those positions are much more awkward. So anytime you go in an awkward position, your body its tendency is to build the strength there. That's how it would adapt. So weightlifters or bodybuilders would use heavy weights because they want to build it. And then when the muscles sort of get adapted, you have to sort of change the way the muscle's thinking, and you have to give it more. And then it gets stronger. And then you give it more, and then it gets stronger. And so on the other side of it, if you wanted to build sort of endurance, you would use less weights and more repetition. So when you do this form over and over again, that's like doing repetition. So you will get stronger, but we don't want to actually trick ourselves. That's not the way our body should be working. We should let the body adapt and then let it delete, and then your movements will become. So it's opposite of what you would be trying to do in building strength. You follow me there? Because once you adapt and your body starts to use less strength, then you're using the correct strength. Whereas just using strength doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it right. So, if that makes sense then. All right, so let's go through the long form. Because we only have about 15 minutes. Let's do it from the kicks. So we can pick it up from after the first set of cloud hands. grasp the sparrow's tail, back to single whip, downward posture. Oops. Step up and raise the hand. Bend from the waist, stork flaps wings, and this is just a repeat. Insert the needle, step out, fan to the back, and we're going to turn, parry and punch, and this time step forward, form the fist, and punch. Step up to grasp the sparrow's tail. Hook your wrists. A third set of cloud hands. Palm strikes face to single lotus kick. Left side brush knee and push. Right side punch down to crotch. So you step up just like a planting punch, but instead extend it out straighter. Step up again, grasp the sparrow's tail. Single whip. Second downward posture. Step up to cross hands, 7 stars. Retreat to ride the tiger. Left palm strikes face. 180-degree turn, double lotus. That just means hit 2 hands, draw bow to shoot tiger, palm strikes face, repeat again. 1, 2, 3, parry and punch, just like the one we have in between the kicks when we have that parry and punch. Palm strikes face, high pat the horse just like the kicks, same hand movement. Step up, grasp the sparrow's tail, back to single whip. set up your legs, hold the ball, close the form, and then out to the side, step backwards, and close. Okay, deep breathing. So it's like, everything else that we do, the building, foundation, fundamentals, patterns, shapes, geometry, and then, we have the kicks and the downward postures. They're not the most critical part of the form. It's just part of the form because, Tai Chi originally was a martial art, and all these movements are techniques. Obviously, if you're using it for martial art and you're using kicks, you would want your kicks to be better. Or downward posture, that's for sort of pulling your opponent down. And a lot of the leg work in the lower stances is not that you're going to use it specifically or exactly like that. It's to strengthen your legs. Because if you can't get up and down out of your stances, then you're going to be, not very effective in the battlefield. So that's why you have to actually strengthen your body in order to use your body on that level. But as a sort of a wellness and fitness or health type exercise, the thing is circulation, coordination, balance, working body intelligence. That's what's important. So do you need to do splits and high kicks? As a competitor, you might want to work toward that. But most people at our age really are not interested in that side of it. Now, if you are a competitor and you are going in the ring and push hands or doing all these, you do need to get conditioned, not because it's going to affect your general form. It's so that you can sustain yourself and have enough energy to get through the rounds of competition. So it does take endurance, because endurance work is really to build the ability for your body to get stronger, and then you build more muscle mass, and you will build more capillaries for circulation, because you're going to use more blood. You're going to circulate a lot more. You get pumped up. So all of that happens as a competitor. In fact, people that are serious competitors, they build up to that, and then when they, because of the mind intent and so forth, they get into the ring and they go like 125% above their normal capacity. And then at the end of that, they kind of spent. It's almost like an adrenaline thing where your body goes through this. That's how competitors and super athletes do it. But most of us are not super athletes. We don't need to go to that point. But if you do go to that point, your body can get damaged. So your fight or flight syndrome can actually hurt you. It's good for the moment, but that's it. The muscle can tear your tissue because it just goes into that hyper mode, and you can save someone's life, lift a car. You heard of that, but afterwards everything's damaged. So, but when we do our forms, we try to build that integration. In the form we have forward and backward, and we step to, like in the step back and punch, and then we go forward to grasp. Well, that is actually because you're in this position, then you're moving to this position, and then if you move, we have sliding steps. These sliding steps that you have, like that, we have those in the sword forms. That's actually a shuffle step, and you actually move through your position to get to your next position. That's how you move forward. It's not always taking this step. It's sometimes moving the back foot and then moving the front foot. And then when you move backward, it's the same thing. So it's really controlling your center. If you go backwards, you're like that. So if you develop that footwork, you're not really concerned about falling down when you're at that age where you're supposed to be falling. But we fall only because we lose the ability to stay agile, because the legs get so stiff they become dysfunctional, and then the torso is totally dysfunctional because we're sitting all the time. You really can't use your body if you're sitting, right? So that's why the modern society goes that way, because all we do is want everything to be done for us and don't have to do much of anything else. So then you become physically, you know, inept. You can't, you know. In fact, this generation of kids don't really know how to fix anything, you know. Last night my son called me and said, "Dad, my shower doesn't shut off." Well, you know, we don't have a modern shower where he is, so it's just a washer. I used to. So I said, "All right, I'll be over because I can't do it tomorrow." I said, "Shut the main water off." I went there, pulled the thing out and changed the washer, put it back together, and he's good to go. So I have to do plumbing in between classes. But that's what, I guess that's what parents do, right? Some parents. So anyways, here, right, Paul. It took about 7 minutes. Because I've done it so many times. Yeah.
If they find it online, then they can't do it.
Well, they can always find somebody online, but
Well, they can find somebody.
yeah, that's why like like the electricians and plumbers. I mean, they're making a killing today because, that this generation just hires them.
That's right.
You know, the older generation, everybody fixed their own things. Yeah, you have a set of wrenches and a little plastic tray of washers, but you have to know how to shut the water off first.
Oh, yeah, minor detail.
Yeah. Okay, that was good. Good seeing everybody. So how old are you anyways? I didn't never really. 68. Oh, so you.
Just a few years behind.
Yeah. But you're in good shape, yeah. But it's, the fact that you stay with it is good. There's a lot to it, It's different from what people think exercise is typically. All the young people do that, and that's okay,
I just need to, like in the early months, like March, April, May, when all it was online, and I was home all the time, I'd be watching 3 times a week, and I picked up the long form, and then I got doing more things outside.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now I find myself not putting enough time into
Yeah.
it, so I stumble around sometimes.
Well, the long form, the funny thing is that, even though it was 3 months, if you take each section and add, say, 4 to 6 weeks for it to go to long-term memory, 3 months times all those 6 weeks, that's why it's kind of fuzzy again. Because, I call it last in, first out.
I'm gonna count, I understand.
So, yeah, so that's, yeah, so, yeah, so when you come to class and, because I talk so much about other stuff, if you have time, just, come as often as you can and you see, and then try to do it online a little bit more. Yeah, that's it. We ran out because during the pandemic I didn't buy this stuff.
Now, good, now you got it.
Well, I told Maria, I said, because I don't go to Costco that much, she says, "Can you get a couple of these?" And I didn't know how short we were because Nan says, "Seafood, any more toilet paper?" I said, "It's coming, it's coming." Yeah, yeah.
See a gal's name that's in black. She's right over there.
Oh, Deborah.
Deborah.
Deborah, yeah. Deborah.
I was trying to pick up her.
Yeah, she knows the form pretty well. Yeah,
Kind of depends where you get spotted.
yeah. So try to jump in the middle when we do it.
But then I feel like I block the camera.
Oh, well, come over to this side, yeah, over here then, yeah. No, because you want to surround yourself with people so you don't have to look around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you kind of lose your balance.
Yeah, and I try to move, but then, Lucian wants me over here
Yeah,
typically.
right.
And I try to talk to the camera too, even though it's a live class.